Welcome everyone to the first round of the Chennai Grandmasters 2024. On your screen is Vidit Gujrathi fist bumping his Olympiad teammate Arjun Erigaisi. Both of them good friends of each other, part of the gold medal winning Indian team, and you can see that they definitely share a nice camaraderie with each other. Now Vidit and Arjun have exchanged blows against each other whenever they've played, and recently the most recent one was a draw at the European Club Cup, but before that at the WR Chess, Arjun did manage to beat Vidit 1.5 in their individual mini match. Both players have this very interesting clash of styles where Vidit is perhaps a little more solid and positional. Arjun likes to create a lot more messy situations. There you can see Vidit getting into the groove, getting ready with his meditation, and Arjun is as calm and relaxed as he always is. He's at 2799, 1 elo point away from 2800, which he's already crossed on the live rating but not on published. E4 by Vidit. The time control of this tournament is 90 minutes plus 30 seconds increment for the entire game. There is no second time control. Now Arjun plays the Sicilian, signaling to Vidit that he is ready for a fight. Vidit brings his knight out to f3, and Arjun notes down the move. Is he going to go d6? Well, he goes e6, and I guess he's ready to play the Sicilian Khan perhaps with a6 later on. So if you play d4, takes, and a6 is the Sicilian Khan, which has been played by Magnus quite a bit recently. Vidit goes for c4, but just look at the clock timings. He's taken 11 minutes for that move. So he was not sure what to do, and he came up with this move. And Arjun thinks for a few seconds and brings his knight out to c6. If Vidit does not play d4 now, Arjun may want to clamp it with e5. So Vidit just goes for it, d4. With this, he will have more space in the position. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, and it also stops black's d5, which is now not so easy to execute. So this is known as the Maroczy bind that white has. Knight comes out to c3, defending the pawn on e4, and Arjun brings his bishop to c5, attacking the knight. You can take here, but that could be taken back with the pawn when there is e5, but a very nice move is d takes c6 when the position is equal. But Vidit instead drops his knight back, attacking the bishop on c5. Bishop goes to b4, and you can see that Arjun wants to not only take this and double the pawns, but also threatening the e4 pawn. So Vidit just moves his bishop and defends the pawn. He's like, Arjun, do what you want here. I'm okay with my pawn structure getting mangled up. So castles has been played here by Arjun, and Vidit, I believe, will also castle it out. Yes, he does castle it out here. Now Arjun Erigaisi takes the knight on c3. Very interesting decision by Arjun. And this creates a very nice flavor to the game, because white has these doubled isolated pawns which can become weakness, but in return, and this is the beauty of chess, you have a dark squared bishop. Always when you lose something, you gain something, and this bishop is going to be very strong on either of these diagonals, putting pressure on the d6 pawn. Look at that, Vidit puts his bishop on d6, on a3, putting pressure on d6. Imagine if the bishop drops back, suddenly you have a lot of pressure on the d6 pawn. Arjun very calmly gets his rook out from this long diagonal, which makes absolute sense. And Vidit now has to decide how to meet this move d5, which is maybe what Arjun wants to do. And I love this move rook e1, because if you go d5, I can just push my pawn forward with e5. And the other thing is, if you bring your knight here, my bishop can drop back to f1. So all in all, a very nice move. Queen c7 played by Arjun. And now Vidit has to come with the next set of plan, which is perhaps with his knight to d4. He's like, Arjun, if you take, I have a great pawn structure. But also I'm threatening knight b5 to attack your queen and the pawn on d6. So there's no time for Arjun to play knight e5. a6 is the correct move. And now he's really planning to play knight e5 with an attack on c4 and the bishop here. So Vidit has to play this a bit carefully. His best move here is to take the knight. And the reason why this move is so good is that after knight takes c6, you take with the queen, which is the most logical move here. Queen takes c6, and now in comes this move c5. Can Vidit find it? Because c5, dc, e5, he has a very nice position. If Vidit finds c5, he would have great chances. Instead, he plays bishop c2, which is also a good move. But now he's giving up his c4 pawn for the d6 pawn. That is why that is what he has done. Queen takes c4 taken, and now queen takes d6 is what Vidit may want to take. So takes on d6, and his idea now is to push the pawn forward. So Arjun has to play very carefully. He can be greedy and take the pawn on c3, but it looks so risky. So Arjun says, I'm not going to go for it. I'm just pushing my pawn to e5, and I'm going to get my bishop out on e6, and I'm happy with what is going on. Vidit is down to 22 minutes on the clock. In fact, 16 now after this move. Bishop b3 attacking the queen, and he is essentially giving up a pawn. So Arjun takes, queen takes c3. And what is Vidit's compensation here? I believe he wants to get the rook from c1 into c7. That's his plan. So rook c1 is played. He wants to get it here. And then the queen goes back to a5. The queen is a little bit precariously positioned, can get kicked around. Let's say, for example, rook c7. The problem is you lose the rook here and get mated. So first bishop b4 makes all the sense, attacking the queen. And now the queen goes back to d8. Queen takes on d8. Rook takes d8. And I think Vidit may want to now jump in with his rook on the 7th rank. This is what he wants to do. Yes, brings his rook to c7. Now look at these two bishops. Brilliant. These are amazing bishops. And also a very active rook. And I think Arjun must try to be careful. He goes rook d7. He realizes that if he goes bishop e6, he will not only take but also lose this pawn. So he decides to play his rook here. Vidit bolsters his rook, now threatening to take on c8. So the rooks are traded, and white's rook comes to the 7th rank. Now putting pressure on f7. Now Arjun goes bishop e6. And if you he must take, I believe, here on e6, just spoiling the structure. Yes, he takes. Fe is what Arjun does. And now a very important move to play f3. Not to take this pawn because knight takes e4 hangs, but to play f3 and essentially tell your opponent that, hey, your pawns are weak, my bishop is strong, my rook is strong, and even though I'm a pawn down, I'll be better here. And a good move now is h4, so that when the rook enters here and starts giving check, I can move up from this side. But Vidit goes a3, which is also a useful move to make, just calmly asking Arjun what's his plan. and Arjun goes a5. And I think Arjun is doing a good thing here, because if Vidit gets the e5 pawn, he would be clearly better. And what Arjun wants to do is liquidate on the queen side, because that will then reduce his pain from the entire board to just one part of it. So he is localizing the pain for now, is Arjun, and then he is hoping that he will have sufficient defensive resources. And this is a very good defensive idea, because if you take on e5, the b3 pawn is a bit, b4 pawn is a bit strong. So Vidit decides to capture the b4 pawn. How big is this an advantage to white is a very questionable thing here, but definitely for a player like Vidit, it makes all the sense to just continue playing here, not to agree to a quick draw. King f1. Now a check. And the bishop drops back to e1. I guess that's what Vidit wants to do here. I don't think he's going to accept a draw, because for a player like Vidit, such positions are joy to play, because you have no chance of losing. Another check. King goes back to f1. Rook a1 check. And now if Vidit plays king f2, it's a draw, but he brings his bishop back to e1. Vidit has less time on the clock, 7 minutes, while Arjun has 31 minutes. He comes knight h5. He wants to activate his knight. That is his main aim. He wants to come here, maybe then to d3. But Vidit simply can stop it with g3. He just pushes his pawn, stops the knight from coming in. So the knight says, I go back, and maybe there's some other way that I'll get some entry. Rook e7 played, and now Vidit is threatening to win this pawn and later on the e5 pawn as well. So Arjun has to now defend the pawn, which means that once he defends rook a6, I believe, no, he goes rook a3. Interesting, but I mean, maybe if you take here, he wants to take here. If I play king e2, he wants to come here, and if you take here, then maybe knight g4, and black has enough counterplay. So Vidit very calmly plays king e2 and says to Arjun that, hey, I have defended my f3 pawn, now I'm really threatening your e6 pawn. So Arjun Erigaisi needs to again find a way to continue. He goes rook a6, but this should give an opportunity for Vidit to attack the e5 pawn, which is exactly what he does. He plays his bishop to c3, and now if you give a check, I just simply come up here. I'm doing fine. He goes king f8, which is the best move, attacking the rook on e7. The rook has to move, and it goes to b7. For Arjun, now the e5 pawn is not so possible to defend, so he gives a check, and bishop comes back to b2. He goes knight d7. So if you take on d7, then he wants to take on b2. So that's the reason why he brings his king up now. King e8. Seems like black has defended his position, because now the e5 pawn is well defended, the knight is defended by the king, but Vidit is now showing that there is another route that he can create. He pushes his pawn to h4, the rook comes back to a5, maybe defending here, getting ready to activate the knight perhaps. Not so easy, not so easy. Rook c7 played, just controlling the c5 square. He goes g6 is on the board. And Vidit now pushes his G pawn as well. Step by step, building up the pressure on Arjun. And for Arjun, his hands are tied. In fact, I would say right now, his one hand is tied, the other one is still free, but he can't do much. He pushes H5 and Vidit goes G5. Vidit has now 3 weaknesses to attack. 1, 2 and 3. Meanwhile, there are 2 weaknesses that he himself possesses, F3 and H4. He goes Rook A8. It was also possible to just play King D8 to attack the Rook, but makes sense. Rook A8 played. Let's see how Vidit continues here. Rook C6. He's down to 1 minute 30 seconds, which is not an easy time left to, convert this position. But then again, you don't need much time. It's just a matter of playing the best moves by understanding what to attack, what not to. But yeah, when you have to break through, you need a bit of more time. King D3 played. He's getting his king in slowly, like King C4, King B5. This could be his idea. And the Rook comes to B8, attacking the bishop on B2. Let's see where Vidit moves his bishop here. It's attacked. And he brings his king back to C2. Calmly doing this. The focus on both the players' faces is just amazing to watch. We are already at move 48. Rook A8 played by Arjun, trying to keep his rook active. And Vidit now brings his rook to C7, once again posing a question that are you willing to go King E8? And I think Arjun will play King E8. Yeah, he brings his king to E8. And Vidit now attacks the pawn on E6. He brings his rook to C6, attacking E6. So if King E7, it's possible to play. There's also King F7 from where he came. He plays King F7. And Vidit now needs to find a new front. He goes King C3. Arjun plays his rook to B8. Maybe not the best move, because this allows Bishop A3 taking control of this all important diagonal. He does play Bishop A3, and all of a sudden this is big trouble now, because if you go Rook A8, I have Bishop D6, and later on I'm going to go Rook here, and it's going to be trouble. So Rook B1 was played by Arjun, trying to create counterplay with Rook F1, Rook H1. Let's see what Vidit does. He goes Rook C7, pinning the knight, threatening to win it. King E8 seems like a forced move. So he brings his king here, check, King F7. And now Rook to D8, attacking the knight on D7. So you can see how step by step Vidit has made progress here. It's amazing. He's taken away both these squares from the black king, so the knight has to move. And now Rook F8 check, followed by Rook E8 and Bishop D6 should be very good. He goes check, King G7. And now Rook E8 is where we are thinking he'll play his rook. But Vidit instead goes to the other side, which is F6. But this gives black some hope, because firstly you want to defend E6. So he removes his knight from B6 with a check, and then he can bring his rook back. King comes up to C4. He plays check again, goes back, check again. and Vidit comes back to c2. Now the rook goes back, defending the pawn on e6. I must commend how Vidit has been putting pressure here on Arjun for almost 60 moves now, and Arjun very calmly playing his moves, maintaining 11 minutes on the clock. I think these are the things which make you a true champion. Not just always winning positions, but be having the ability to hold worse positions. Bishop h6. If only Vidit could transfer the position of the bishop with the rook, he would have been very happy. Check. King d3. And now what next? Well, he comes back, no checks there, but now you cannot even take this pawn because of a knight fork. So he goes bishop f8 here, knight to b2 check. The king has to move. It goes to d2, e2 now. I wonder what is the way in which Vidit intends to continue. Maybe bishop d6 to attack e5 is his plan. So rook b6 played to defend e6. And now bishop goes back. This time maybe he wants to make use of the rook coming in. So he goes rook c6. He's waiting there, Arjun. But now Vidit can give a check. Yes, check. King goes to h8. And let's see what Vidit does. He gives another check. King comes up. I think Vidit is just enjoying himself in the grind. He's just putting so much pressure here on the India number 1. And now rook b7 should seal the deal, because this would give a huge advantage, but he blunders. He plays rook g7. And the problem with this move is that there are some stalemate ideas also, but overall this seems like now a possibility to hold for Arjun. A check. King comes up. He gives another check. King d2 played. So he takes, rook takes f3, and he takes on g6. So again, the material is even, but the way in which Arjun is coordinating his pieces is just amazing. So king d1 played, and now rook f4. He's attacking e4 and h4. Takes on e6. Takes the pawn. Knight e3 check. The king comes up to d2. Vidit is a pawn up, but for now the knight defends this and e4 pawn is hanging. So king d3 played, but this will be attacked with knight e4, knight f2, knight e4. He first brings his king in. g6 is impossible because the bishop is hanging, so check. King h7. Let's see what Vidit does. He's been so persistent here for his win. He's not given up. Give up is not something that he has on his mind. He still wants to win it. Gives another check. King h7. And now Vidit plays his bishop to f8. I don't know what exactly is he threatening, maybe nothing. And perhaps here knight f2 check makes a lot of sense, because now you're going to lose e4, h4 both. King c4 played by Vidit, and Arjun now has a choice which pawn to capture first. He takes, rook takes e4, check. King d5, and he takes another pawn. So from being a pawn down, now black is a pawn up. I guess you could take here, but then there's a check and you lose the rook, so that's a problem. But bishop e7 kind of solves that problem. He's got his rook to g4, just well placed rook. Once again, if you take here, it's kind of equal, check. And so he goes king e6, and now Arjun brings his knight back to e4, attacking the pawn on g5. I think it's time to pull the brakes here and agree to a draw. But Vidit goes king f5. He's still hopeful that there is some kind of a mating attack. He goes knight g3, check. And now very important to go f6 or e6, not to take this, but he takes it. Vidit blunders. After 87 moves of dominating the game, he blunders big time and gives Arjun a winning position. And I believe that he would be able to find it here. King g6 is the correct move, and king g6 stops the white king from moving. You can't move the bishop because of check and you lose the rook. You can't move the rook because of check and knight f5 check. So all in all, this is completely lost. Even if you go for a check, my king comes to f7. Vidit goes king e6, but this is over now. A check by Arjun. If king d5 here, king f7 wins. He goes king d7, but now with such less material as well, the position is completely busted because of this next move, which is just epic. Knight f5. You want to take your bishop, rook, both, and then just queen this pawn down the board. Yeah, take. And now h4 has been played. You can see that this pawn is literally unstoppable. The bishop can stop it from here, but it's not going to be enough. King d7. It pushes the pawn even further. h3. The bishop tries to stop it from c7, but I believe the king is going to come in. So he takes the pawn, threatening h2, and king comes here. King moves ahead. Knight g3 is a threat, so brings the bishop back. And now he brings his knight. His idea is king f3 to g2. Vidit has quite some time on the clock now, but his position is lost. He goes king f6, and Arjun is coming in. King f3, king g2 is what he wants, and plays it. King f3, and king g2 is coming when the bishop is trapped and the h-pawn queens. What a turnaround we are seeing. 96 moves. You can see there Vidit can't believe the situation. He's just shaking his head. Chess is in that sense quite a tough sport, right? You play 80 good moves but one bad move and it kind of overwrites just about everything. He's drinking his water, he's getting ready to resign, but yeah, he's livid with himself for letting this chance go. It's not every day that you get a chance to press against Arjun Erigaisi, who's now world number 4, but after this game would become world number 3 on the live rating list. And you can see Vidit has couple of minutes on the clock, but has no time, has no way to get out of this. That's the problem of chess, that once you make a mistake, no matter how long you think, your position does not really change. And suffering there with it. First round, not a great result. Meanwhile, Arjun, who had a tough result in the first round in 2023 against Hari Krishna, has come back super strong here. And you can see there Vidit with his head in his hand. Arjun knows that he has won it. We would be pleased with this because for him a lot is at stake, not just 2800 but also a spot in the candidates through FIDE circuit. He's at the top of it, and there Vidit just coming to grips with the reality, and I believe that he's going to very soon resign this game, which will give Arjun a good start and will join MVL at the top of the leaderboard. He stops the clock, resigns there. Arjun Erigaisi scores the win. He was alert for his opportunity, which is sometimes very difficult when you are under pressure throughout the game. And let's see if the players talk to each other there. You can see Vidit telling Arjun that, I think I was winning, and Arjun nodding his head. He knows that he has dodged a bullet here. He saved himself from a big defeat. 96 moves is what the game lasted, and both of them fought quite commendably. And now 6 more rounds to go here at the Chennai Grandmasters, which is happening at the Anna Centenary Library in Chennai, the strongest ever super tournament on Indian soil.